Welcome to the Shift podcast, where midlife, medicine, and mindset meet. We're breaking the silence around women's health and simplifying the path to feeling strong, clear, and better than ever. Hosted by me, Heidi Swap, with insights from Dr. Vohn Watts and stories from real women, the Shift podcast is here to challenge the narrative, empower you with information, and create a new vision for your next chapter. Hey there, welcome back to the Shift. I am really excited for today because finally I've cornered Dr. Watts into Microbiome 101, 102, and 105. No, I don't know how much we're going to get through. We've been promising to talk about the gut, and I have been repeatedly saying that it feels overwhelming. He has been repeatedly saying, it's so simple. And this is what will continue to be the dynamic because it's so interesting how Dr. Vohn can just make things seem very simple, and how I can just overcomplicate things. It's a really great dynamic.
Hey, that works. It works.
But one of the things that we just talked about is, well, maybe you should repeat it. Who has gut issues? Would you just say?
I would say, well, we were talking specifically about, this is controversial, parasites. And you said, who has parasites? Well, I'll give you an example. If you have dogs, you have cats, you eat sushi, you eat pork, you travel, you have a pulse, you have parasites. So
it's aggressive. It was aggressive.
It was, but I tell you what, 100% of my patients that came through my clinic, that's one of the first things we do. You know, as we get the terrain ready first, we go in and we clear out toxicity like environmental toxins, pesticides, heavy metals, molds, parasites, before we ever move into the treatment phase, right? And so all of them go through a parasite cleanse first. And when they do, I had more of a concierge practice. So my patients had my cell phone number because if something was going wrong on a weekend, late at night, whatever it was, they could get a hold of me. With that being said, they would also send me pictures of the strange, and I'm not kidding, creatures that came out through their stools. And there's some there's some obviously that look like, pinworms or long rope worms.
Wow.
No, those aren't the crazy ones. I remember getting these pictures one time and I don't know if these
people are ready.
You zoom in on it and I swear it looked like an alien creature. It looked like this little tiny lobster creature. Weird. I mean, it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but my patients would always send me pictures of these because they were so freaked out, like, oh my gosh, this came out of me, right? But the truth is, without addressing these things, with especially parasites, you can never truly gain gut health. You can affect your microbiome, you can change that, but you're still dealing with other things. There are mold, there's heavy metals, and I always do parasites first because there's other pathogens and metals that reside inside of parasites. So if you go and try to clear heavy metals, for example, and then you do parasites later, as you kill them, they release heavy metals. So it's kind of there's also an order in how you
All right, let's back up. That's just a sign of things to come. Let's back up. What we're going to do today.
Should we go simple?
Now what we're going to do today is we are going to talk about gut health and specifically about how to actually get your microbiome under control. Yeah. And so first of all, I want to talk about.
Let's go into 101.
Let's do very beginning. First. Let's do some defining because we want to kind of talk. What we want to get to is from here's what we need to shift. A lot of us, probably all of us, have some type of gut problem. Leaky. It's called different things. Leaky gut. It's called. Maybe you're not absorbing, maybe you've got microbiome problems, and I'm going to want you to talk about like, what are the symptoms? Like, is it everything from gas, bloated to depression, anxiety? Like, we know that there is a lot of information with the gut. Then we kind of want to talk about, all the different things that can be wrong. But as we as we kind of get through our conversation, I want to really give some actionable steps. Like, how do I address this? Because I think that in the last few weeks, as we started this podcast and we kind of talked about gut health in the very beginning, we talked about autoimmune. We're getting a lot of questions about gut health specifically. And I don't know how to answer those questions.
Well, let's go basic 101 first. What the gut does, right? We want to know, because if we know what the gut does, what it controls, then we know why we're having certain symptoms.
So let's just
and
go
on
back.
and on.
Can we take one? Is the stomach and the gut the same thing?
No, two very different things.
Okay. So let's start there. When the food comes into your
body,
through
goes
your
into the stomach.
Okay.
And then in the stomach, you have stomach acid in there, right? Which is around 1.8, 2.0 pH, which is about the same as battery acid, right? And you want to have and that's where everything, digestion first starts there in the stomach, because it starts to break things down before it then the stomach tube comes in and attaches into the large intestines, okay? Or small intestines, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you want to first off have good levels of stomach acid, because that's what will break down food. It's what kills pathogens that you may be eating in foods. And so by the time it then goes into the small intestines, you've broken it down enough to where you can start to process in the small intestines, and then it works its way through the large intestines and down through the colon, right?
Okay.
And there's an element in there. There's a little tube that comes off of the gallbladder that attaches right where the stomach, kind of right next to where the stomach and the small intestines reach. And that's where it dumps bile, because bile is what helps break down fat.
And so the bile goes into the small intestine.
Correct. Like almost right close to that juncture there.
And so you just said that the purpose of the bile is to break down fat.
A few things. Break down fat. It also carries toxins that are being excreted, because your liver is your detoxifying organ, right? That's everything processes through there, and that's where your toxins come out, and your liver basically puts toxins into that bile so that it can then go through and be excreted out through feces.
Okay, so the liver, I know that the liver obviously is separate. And so while the food is getting broken down and going into the small intestines, the liver is creating bile that goes into the gallbladder. That goes into the small intestines. So
the liver creates bile, and then it stores the bile in the gallbladder.
Okay.
So then when your body needs, when you eat fatty foods or things like that, then it will release bile to help break down and digest that fat.
So bile and stomach acid are not the same.
Two different things. Two totally different things.
I always thought, this is going to be gross, that when you don't have anything in your stomach and you throw it up, it's bile. But that's just stomach acid. I mean,
you can. I mean, in extreme cases, you could.
But I'm just talking about like pregnancy. You know, when you wake up and you feel sick,
you're
and
having
you
like
just
that acid reflux, and you're having that.
It's just
that's coming from the stomach, yeah. And so it's really important. And this is the.
I don't know why I wanted to clarify that.
Well, it's important to kind of understand this, because it all starts in the stomach. So if you don't have enough stomach acid, it'll lead to acid reflux. And I know that sounds foreign to people, because people think, oh, it's too much stomach acid, so I take something to calm the stomach acid down. No, what it is you don't have enough stomach acid. So when you're eating fatty foods, you're not able to break some of the stuff down, and then it can cause a reflux. And so is
that only with fatty foods?
Well, you're going to fill that more with fatty foods.
Okay.
So not say it's but you're going to fill that more with fatty foods. So one of the first things I'd look at is, and that's a really difficult thing about being on like a proton pump inhibitor, which is for people that have acid reflux and they go to their doctor and they get Nexium. What that does, it keeps it quells the symptom of acid reflux, but it's also suppressing stomach acid. So if you ever go off of that medication, your acid reflux is going to be worse than it ever was. And so you actually want stomach acid. So what I would always do is I'd put people on like a hydrochloric acid, pepsin protocol to rebuild the stomach acid. That's the very first thing in digestion is the stomach. So you got to have proper amount of stomach acid. So if you have acid reflux, you need to go through, and I have a very simple acid reflux or a HCl pepsin protocol Very simple. You can just buy the product online, and there's a number of companies that sell it.
And so are you just assuming if you're having heartburn,
Yep.
right, that you need this type of a protocol?
More than likely.
You're not.
More than
Are
likely.
you testing to see like what the pH balance is, or if you have enough?
No.
You're just, you're just saying you have this problem.
Yeah.
This is what you would recommend.
Yeah. And that's the case for most people. You're always going to have the outliers. So I'm never going to say something like, concrete, like this is for everyone. But for the most part, yeah, that's the case. And so let's just assume we have good stomach acid. We start breaking things down, and then we're starting to dump into the intestines. Well, that's where we absorb all our nutrients, our vitamins, minerals, fats, sugars, all that stuff happens in there.
Small intestines? Small
intestines, yeah. And so
is the small intestines considered the gut?
The small intestines and large intestines are considered the gut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so
there's a lot of area that could be leaky.
Yeah, well, really, if you want to talk about leaky gut, and we'll go all into this. So the bigger thing, just to make it really...
I don't want to jump ahead, but...
Just to make it super simple.
I feel like I know nothing.
So your gut is right here.
Okay.
Your stomach is actually up here behind your rib cage.
Okay.
So your vital organs are all protected by your rib cages. Your kidneys, your liver, your gallbladder, your heart, lungs, all that is above the diaphragm and protected here. So your gut is really what's exposed in your belly. And it's really important because the function of your gut really depends on a couple of things. One is your intestinal lining and also your microbiome. And the intestinal lining, that's where people talk about leaky gut, or like the medical term is gut permeability.
When you do this,
I'm just using it as an example. Like think of your gut as a big circle, and when you eat things.
So when you think of it, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm a very visual person. But when you think of it as a circle, because that's how I think of it, and I've seen you do this. Are you thinking of the inside of like this?
The tube.
The tube.
Yeah, because you have like tubes that are running for miles in here, right?
Right.
But you're like the tube.
But it's not in this. Okay. So I just wanted to establish that this means the tube. And so when you're talking about the lining, it's the entire lining of the tube that goes miles and miles.
Correct. And so what I was taught in school is like we have these things called tight junctions where your cells are basically like stuck together. And when you get leaky gut, they break apart, and what it does is it prevents things from getting into the bloodstream. And the only thing you want to get in the bloodstream are things that are supposed to transport in and out, and usually really small, like sugars and fats and proteins and amino acids, all these things, right? Vitamins, minerals. So when you have leaky gut, now food fragments can seep through there, like gluten, right? There's a perfect example is gluten. But what we've come to realize more and more now is it's not like they're broken. What it is there's like a little door or window in between these tight junctions that prevent things from coming in. But there are things that can trigger them to open up, and then you're allowing things that go in and out. And so as an example, I have people that come in all the time and go, "Oh, doc, can I do a food sensitivity test?" And I just look at them and be like, I don't even run those anymore. They're a waste of time. They're a waste of money, because all it's telling me is whether or not you have leaky gut. It's not telling me if you're sensitive to that food. If you have a true allergy, you'll know, because if you eat that food, you're going to have a major allergic response, right? Or even with lactose intolerance, maybe you don't break out like anaphylactic shock or something, but you're going to have explosive diarrhea, right? So you have a response. So whenever anybody thinks that, I have a sensitivity to this food, the very first question I ask is, did you always have that sensitivity, like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or when you were a teenager or a kid? And if the answer is no, then you don't have a food sensitivity. What you have is leaky gut, and we're creatures of habit. We tend to eat the same foods, right? The foods we like. So things are getting into the bloodstream that don't belong there. And then it triggers an immune response. And so then eventually can trigger and make a food sensitivity, or for example, with Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune thyroid, it can even create an autoimmune response. And so how that works is this. Gluten molecularly has a similar look to thyroid. And so when gluten seeps into the blood, and I was never big on, I'm one of the mavericks when it comes to gluten and autoimmune thyroid, where everybody's like, stay away from gluten, never be on gluten. For me, I'm like, but gluten's not the cause. Like, why is gluten getting in the blood to begin with? Oh, you have leaky gut. Oh, why do you have leaky gut? Okay, well, what causes these tight junctions to open? Well, research has shown glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, can trigger those little windows or doors that open. Well, which foods are most heavily sprayed with glyphosate, Roundup? Well, all wheat. In the U.S., they spray it before they harvest. It makes it easy for harvesting. So the foods that are more heavily sprayed with glyphosate also happen to be the ones that tend to have the most gluten in the end product, like bread. And so I've had plenty of autoimmune thyroid patients that once we healed their gut and we healed the gut lining so they no longer had leaky gut, they could have a piece of pizza. I'm not saying go out and eat gluten, but I'm saying they could have something that maybe a slice of pizza were before that would trigger almost like a thyroid response, like they would, a real autoimmune response. It would really screw them up to where I had a patient call me on a Saturday at 9:00 at night, crying on the phone that she had 2 slices of pizza for the first time in years. And she didn't think she could ever do that again.
When you say it would really screw them up.
Well, some can like
bloating.
It can cause bloating, but some it'll trigger their autoimmunity. So what it does is the gluten gets in, the immune system sees it and it attacks it in anything that looks like it, which is the thyroid. So then it starts attacking the thyroid. And so you can have, thyroid, a lot of different thyroid symptoms. In real extreme cases, I mean, it could even trigger a thyroid storm, which is really, really bad. But those are more extreme cases, but it'll trigger that autoimmunity. So I always tell when a patient comes in with a thyroid issue and we find out that they have autoimmune thyroid, the very first thing I let them know is you do not have a thyroid issue. You have an immune system issue. Because if we calm the immune system down, your thyroid works just fine. It's the immune system that is literally punching the thyroid in the back of the head. And how is anybody able to function properly when you're constantly getting hit in the back of the head, right? That's kind of what it's doing. So we calm that down. How do we calm that down? By repairing the gut lining so that things like gluten don't get into the bloodstream that don't belong there. Okay. So if you have a food sensitivity that you never had prior, there's a good chance that you have almost a 99.9% chance that you have leaky gut. And that stuff's getting in, and because you're a creature of habit, now you've created a sensitivity. So when you eat certain things, your body doesn't like it, and you'll have a response, whatever that response might be. Maybe it's digestive response, it could be bloating, it could be
when you
skin.
Say digestive response, do you mean like diarrhea or constipation,
Correct.
one or the other?
And a lot of autoimmune patients, they can go back and forth between constipation to diarrhea. And they go back and forth. A lot of them are just constipated, but and a lot of them are, and depending on the autoimmunity, some are like really constipated, some are really loose stools, and then some like will be constipated, and then when they finally go, it's like explosive diarrhea, and then they're constipated again. So, which also is another indicator. Now we're into the microbiome.
Okay. When
you have healthy microbiome, that will also help with digestion. So a combination of ensuring that you have good bile flow, which helps with digestion, and also your microbiome. And so we have good and bad bacteria in our gut, and we always will. It's just for a good, healthy gut, you're going to have more good bacteria to bad.
So, okay. Do you have this microbiome not in the stomach?
You have it in every organ.
Okay. And I know you have it in your mouth.
You have it in your mouth, you have it in your female
the microbiome
organs.
Is everywhere.
It's everywhere, but
good and bad. The microbiome is bacteria.
Bacteria.
Some of it is healthy, and when you say good or bad, should you not have bad, or you need both?
Well, no, you don't need both. I mean, it's just we eat things, right? So and you're going to find it more. I'm talking exclusively in the gut when we're talking microbiome and we're talking good and bad. We eat things. There's bacteria and stuff that we eat, so we're going to be exposed to that. So that bacteria is going to come into our gut, and that we don't want in there. But when you have a good, healthy microbiome, meaning you have really good microbiome that we want, it keeps it in balance, and it'll fight it off and just to keep you from getting an infection or keep you from getting any kind of issue. Now, for those that have heard the term SIBO, which stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Okay. So
that's when you get an inverse.
When you were saying SIBO, I was imagining a C. because I thought it was a word. So it's small intestinal
bacterial overgrowth, which means
SIBO.
Okay. So instead of your good bacteria being here high and your bad bacteria being low, you have an inverse relationship of your bad bacteria is overgrown and there's more bad bacteria than good bacteria. And that will lead to all sorts of digestive issues, from bloating to, you just name it. Because also, let's back up one step here, because I did kind of get in front of us. What does the gut control? And as you dig more and more, especially in the functional medicine world, we term the gut as the second brain. That's what we call it, the second brain, because it basically controls more processes than just about any other organ in the body besides the brain. And so in the gut, you want to go through some of the things?
And that's small intestine and large intestine.
Your gut, yep.
Okay. Yes, I do want to go through that.
So your gut controls, like your thyroid hormone, 20% of your thyroid hormone, T4, converts to T3 in the gut. You have other hormones like vitamin D, for those that didn't realize vitamin D is a hormone.
That is a wild one.
Other estrogen, testosterone, you have some other hormone conversion. So basically you have hormone conversion that happens in the gut. You have neurotransmitters. So 98% of serotonin, the happy neurotransmitter, is created in the gut before it crosses what's called the blood-brain barrier.
And okay, so if it's created in the gut, that is being created by the food.
The food you put in.
The food
and the microbiome as well, because you got to realize that's what's also helping to break things down. And then it creates metabolites from that. And it creates...
Meaning that those things, it's a chemical reaction, and then out pops the vitamin D.
Or not vitamin D would be a wrong example. Like, say, serotonin, it'd be like you eat turkey, which we know has tryptophan, which then as you eat it, it gets converted from tryptophan and I don't remember all of the steps, but to 5-HTP, which is 5-hydroxytryptophan, which eventually converts into serotonin. And so then that serotonin, that neurotransmitter, neurotransmitter will go, dopamine, serotonin, GABA, all these things are created in the gut, and then it crosses into the brain. So if you don't have a healthy microbiome, you won't create good or a proper amount of neurotransmitters. Healthy
being just basically more of the good bacteria than the bad bacteria.
Yes, and that's a really simplification, but yes, that as well as your gut lining, as well as not having parasites and toxins residing that can prevent your microbiome from doing the job.
Okay,
so a healthy microbiome is free of toxins in your gut. You have a healthy gut lining and is able to do all the things that it needs to do.
So the things that the gut needs to do, the things that it needs to create, like the things that you just mentioned, whether that's hormones or converting cells, whatever, do each one of those processes to get, like you just mentioned, turkey, does each one of those processes have a certain vitamin or mineral or nutrient that is required?
In order to do that?
In order to get that certain thing out?
No, not necessarily. Well, yeah, so like there are specific things that you would eat that would help to create these different things, like your different hormones. Like you'd need your body to be able to, that's why you can't have vitamin and mineral deficiency, right? Because that's why we have essential vitamins and minerals, because they're utilized in all these different physiological processes. Example, go back to the thyroid. T4, T3, the 4 and the 3 tell you how many iodine molecules are attached. So if you don't have enough iodine, you can't make enough thyroid hormone, right? And that's a real easy one. But aside from that, the gut also controls pretty much the majority of the inflammation in the body is controlled by the gut. The majority of your immune cells.
So the immune system is regulated by the gut?
The majority of your immune cells are found in the gut. So it controls your inflammation, it controls neurotransmitters, it controls immune system, it controls hormone conversion.
Okay, so these are all going to sound like such stupid questions, but the immune system is white blood cells, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's a part of it. you have cells that trigger all these responses. So
okay,
yeah, that's a There's a number of cells, and you have a whole bunch of different cells, which if we got into that would just be so confusing.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Try to keep it on the surface.
Which is good.
We're getting into natural killer cells and white blood cells and neutrophils and basophils. And
so what we just need to know for this conversation is that
it controls
your
the
immune system, which, like you mentioned, if there's stuff that's exiting the gut accidentally or that shouldn't be there, then that's what's triggering this, like, I got to go clean it up. Which when the immune system is triggered, the big word for that is inflammation, right?
So the way I look at it is when you have organ dysfunction, that organ dysfunction will then lead to inflammation, and then chronic inflammation will then lead to disease.
Okay.
And so it's like you don't go from just point A to Z, you know, it's a process, you know, inflammation, then inflammation untreated, going to chronic inflammation, then boom, now you're dealing with some kind of issue.
Okay.
But needless to say, it controls a lot of very important processes in the body, as well as, you know, we detox, you know, as we detox, a lot of the toxins come, you know, they dump out of the liver through the bile, which comes through the intestines and out. So it's important to have good bowel movements. You know, healthy bowel movements is at least 2 a day. So
obviously, when we eat something, it moves to the small intestines. The body starts extracting,
breaking down, metabolizing, and then you do a lot of the absorption in your large intestines.
And then whatever the body doesn't need, whatever is just the junkety junk, right? Then that's what heads on out.
Excrete out. Yep.
2 times a day.
At least 2 times. I mean, really, truly healthy gut is a bowel movement after every big meal.
How long after the meal?
Usually within an hour or 2. And usually probably within about an hour.
Because doesn't it take like a long time to get something all the way through?
Well, think about it. If things are already there, right?
So
then as it comes through, it's just now moving down.
Okay.
You're slowly going through. So when you... And then this is the big thing that I teach when it comes to toxicity is you have to have, if you're going to detox, you have to have good bowel movements, at least 2 bowel movements a day, because if not, if say you're constipated and you try to detox, there's 3 main ways you excrete toxins. One's through feces, one through urine, and then one is through the skin.
Sweating, yeah.
So if you're constipated and you can't get those toxins out, 2 things will happen. One, it'll start pushing it out through the skin. And that's usually when people get like hives or they'll get like rashes or skin issues, you know.
Okay.
Then the other thing is because it can't get it out, if it sits in the large intestines long enough, it'll reabsorb those toxins.
Oh.
Which then makes you feel like crap, like you have the flu. Anybody who's tried to detox and they're like, oh man, I feel like that made me feel bad. Felt like I had the flu. It's like, then your body wasn't ready for detox and you just went right into it. There's things that you have to make sure are working prior to. So I know it's a little bit a tangent, but when it comes down to that microbiome, you really want to have a really good microbiome. And one of the biggest causes of a messed up microbiome, aside from ultra processed foods, which is a big one, there's a number of things in our diet that can screw up our microbiome. But the really big culprit is when you go on an antibiotic. And I'm not saying don't go on antibiotics.
But we've all experienced that because especially when you're a mom and the baby has ear infections.
Right.
And yes, I would go give them an antibiotic and then they just have bad diarrhea and their poor bums are just raw.
Well, then what happens, and this is the problem I have with docs that prescribe antibiotics, is they tell you half the story. They just say, take this for 10 days until it's done, and then the end. Which the rest of the story should be, take this for 10 days, and then when you're done, you need to go on a really good round of probiotics to rebuild the good bacteria, because the antibiotic doesn't distinguish between good and bad bacteria. It just goes in and carpet bombs everything. And then what happens is if you don't go in and rebuild that, it can take up to 2 years to rebuild the microbiome.
2 years.
Completely. And then what happens, and this is where a lot of people end up getting SIBO, because you're going to rebuild that microbiome based on what you expose your body to, based on your diet. we're one of the few cultures that doesn't have naturally have probiotic food. For example, sauerkraut, kimchi, some of these fermented foods.
I did ask ChatGPT what was some prebiotic, and so we need to get into the probiotic in just a second. But I had another question. You said SIBO, but then you've also talked about like Candida. Mm-hmm. Is that part of the SIBO, or that's different?
They're different, very different.
And so, do you want to talk about prebiotics and probiotics?
Yeah,
first?
That takes 2 seconds. Yeah, we'll do that. So the probiotics, that's the, we're eating things like sauerkraut and
so
kimchi.
Hold on. When you eat yogurt, what I learned from Gary Brecka is that my favorite, Chobani, says that there's probiotics, but then Gary Brecka says that actually it's too processed, and so they're actually not active cultures. Correct.
That's why.
I was offended and mad because I really worked up to liking the Greek yogurt.
Well, it's not live food at that point. So once you process food, the food is no longer living; it's dead. So it's just like with milk. When you drink milk, you're drinking dead food.
If it's pasteurized.
If you're drinking it you're buying it from a farmer and you're getting unpasteurized milk, you're drinking live food. There's live. That's why, honestly, that's one of the best ways to get really good probiotics is drinking non-pasteurized milk. They've just really scared people with it that, it'll cause, you have major issues. And what they leave out is the whole scare, when it happened like in the early 1900s, when they had cows in the cities inside these buildings, and they were milk cows.
They're not grass-fed. They're not.
Well, they're in this really small confined place, which now you have feces everywhere. So you're creating an environment for disease, and so to think that disease doesn't seep into the milk and cause issues and that was really what happened. But they've used it to scare everybody away from it, and really, it's one of the most nutritious foods you can actually have if you get unpasteurized.
But then fundamentally, if you just got milk, you don't know where it's coming from. It could be in an unhealthy farm.
Yeah, it's dead food. So that's the thing. And then prebiotics is basically, it's like fibrous food, like, certain vegetables and different things like that the probiotics, the microbiome feeds on. So when you feed your body good prebiotic, it gives it food so the colonies can grow. Okay. So I always suggest if you're going to do a probiotic, find one that is as pro and prebiotic in it.
So what's the difference between pro and pre? Is it like first?
One is
first.
Food.
You're going to go in with first.
The probiotic is the actual
food for the colony.
No, that's the prebiotic.
Oh,
the probiotic is the actual bacteria.
Oh, okay.
So when you think probiotic, you're thinking of, like you get probiotics in
the cultures.
Yogurt, and yes, that's the actual bacteria. And you really have to do your research because a lot of even probiotics on the market people buy, it's dead. It's not doing anything for you. So
in theory, is a good probiotic, can it come in a pill?
It can. I mean, for me, and I'm not here to like promote any company, but there's one company that does it probably better than anybody else because that's all they do, and they have tons of research behind it, and it's called Microbiome Labs, and they have different microbiome products for all sorts of different parts of the body. You can get a lot of stuff online, and it's just like any supplement. There's a good portion of supplements that it's all marketing and no effect. It's garbage.
Are those coming through a pharmacy?
I don't know through a pharmacy.
Do you buy probiotic or prebiotic?
I wouldn't buy anything from a pharmacy.
Okay. Well, I actually had a friend come stay with me once, and she got a prescription of probiotic.
You can get a prescription for anything. You can get a prescription for vitamin D.
Right.
I mean, so I would find a very reputable company that sells a really good prebiotic if you're trying to if you've been on an antibiotic because
so if you got it from Microbiome Labs, it would be a pill format?
Yeah, more like a pill or powder or something, depending on what you're doing. But yeah, usually a pill, a capsule.
Okay. Because Chelsea is wanting me to buy a yogurt maker so I can make my own yogurt. And then I just listened to this interview with Martha Stewart, who, I mean, honestly, she's 84. And she's had a lot of work. I get that. But she was talking about, like, all of her food is grown on her property. all of her meat, all of her, like she is really done a lot of work to make sure that she's getting nutrients. She makes her own yogurt.
She moves around like she's not 84.
No,
and she's
incredible.
A true testament, regardless of like if people are a big fan of her or whatever or not. It doesn't really matter. Like the reality of it is, she is living proof that when you eat real food, and not processed, and
she exercises,
and food from your garden, because you're getting all the essential vitamins and minerals when you grow your own fruits and vegetables. When you buy it from the grocery store, even organic, most of that stuff doesn't have the vitamins in it. Like spinach, I think I talked about this before. They did one on spinach. They went to test spinach in the grocery store, and spinach has vitamin C in it. And so they pulled spinach out of the produce section, tested it for vitamin C, and how much vitamin C was in there? Zero. The way we farm now in the U.S., because it's the same crop every year in the same fields, those fields are not able to be remineralized. Mm-hmm. Plus, we're spraying with pesticides, which also denature the minerals and bugs and things that are in the ground. And so, yeah, she's living proof that growing your own garden and eating real food.
It is pretty impressive. I don't remember where I saw her.
Because it's regardless of what you look like, how is she physically moving at 84? Most 84 years.
She was wearing she was at the Skims.
Wearing heels?
Yeah, she was at the Skims, the most recent Skims launch in New York, and she was wearing heels. It seemed like she was kind of holding on to someone's arm, but they were probably trying to move her pretty fast. And her eyes are kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm impressed.
Yeah.
And when I listened to her whole morning routine, 84, that's my target. Like, what do I want to do? So Chelsea might be right about making yogurt. In fact, one day.
100%.
So Chelsea makes her own yogurt, and she's been building her gut back, right? And so she came to the gym and she brought each one of us like a little bowl of homemade yogurt to prove to us that it was delicious and
was it delicious?
It was.
There you go.
And so the Chobani had to be out.
Well, and she shared this before, and that's how her and I met, was because she had Hashimoto's.
Right.
And she came in, actually, this is when I was working at headquarters for doTERRA, and she, does essential oils there. And so we met in a room, and I broke down and said, this is what causes the autoimmunity. Your leaky gut is the trigger, is the main cause. And then these things here once they get in there, are triggering it. So we got to repair your gut. And so really it was a lot of when she started having her health journey happen and started feeling better, especially with autoimmunity, was when she started repairing her gut. Right. And I'll go on record and say right now, all autoimmunity is caused by gut dysfunction. All of it. Like 99.9% of autoimmunity is in the gut. You heal the gut. And most docs will say, you go to a Western medicine doc, if you have autoimmunity, you can't cure it. I don't care what you call it, but when your labs are normal and you don't have any symptoms, cure it, not cure it, I don't really care. But it's fixed. And I've seen that over and over. Like every one of my patients that came in just about were autoimmune thyroid.
Alopecia?
All autoimmunity starts in the gut.
Or fibromyalgia, do you consider that?
No, fibromyalgia is the doctor just gave up and doesn't know what's wrong with you, so he's just throwing a label on it.
Could be stuff. Okay.
It's not autoimmune.
And I don't mean to try to peg you.
Yeah.
You can tell. There's a lot that I don't know because I kind of let it just bounce off me because I haven't had those specific problems, but I'm seeing it in members of my family or people around me, which is making me be curious because I've always been, just go to the doctor, get on whatever they tell you.
And here's a good indicator. Just like, well, how do I know if I have gut issues? Well, here's an example. Here, I'll just throw out a couple things. If you are not regular, like you're constipated, you have a microbiome dysfunction.
Okay, let me stop you about.
And by not regular, meaning if you're one of those, and I just had a conversation with the lady the other day who uses the bathroom like once every 4 or 5 days.
Okay.
Not only is that not healthy, that's like you got to realize
you have to be in pain.
That's going to eventually lead to something bad. And so, or if you have diarrhea all the time, loose stools, you have major disruption in your microbiome. If you get bloating all the time, you have gut issues, and that could be a combination of microbiome. It could be a combination of parasite waste, which is gaseous and causes you to have that. Or if you have anxiety, depression, that all starts in the gut. Attention deficit disorder, a lot of that, I know, ADHD, don't want to trigger people, but it doesn't really matter. If you have ADD, ADHD, whatever that is, a lot of that starts, one, with diet, and two, major gut dysfunction.
If you're somebody, this is a pooping question.
Yeah.
If you're somebody who doesn't, like, literally the minute I leave home, whether I'm on a road trip and I'm staying in St. George, whether I'm getting on an airplane, like my regularity changes. Is that a microbiome issue? Is that like stress?
Stress can do that. I wouldn't be as like concerned to go right to, oh my gosh.
Because usually like I come home and then it's like 3 days of the backup.
Yeah. Well, I know people that's like they went
There's
on
like
vacation.
A word for it.
They were gone for a couple days at a conference, backed up. And then as soon as they landed, came home, walked in the house and evacuated. And by evacuated, I mean just
that's what happens to me.
So that's more, I mean, you can't really pinpoint, you can't really say for everybody what it is, but I think a lot of that's more like maybe emotionally driven. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's stress, maybe it's a number of different things.
I mean, I definitely like get worked up because leaving and coming home and whatever's going on there, I'm sure it works me up. You want to
go back to Candida real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So Candida is different. Candida overgrowth.
You talked about it being sugar, so it's got to be a problem for me.
Well, it's not necessarily sugar. What Candida is, it's different than like your microbiome. You have Candida in your body, and that's what everybody has Candida. And so when people say, oh, you have Candida, you need to get all your Candida. No, you don't. It's when you have Candida overgrowth that is a problem. And so what Candida does is it's a natural thing that we have in our body that when we eat too much sugar, it's kind of a backup to help gobble up that extra sugar to help maintain blood sugar levels.
Okay.
When you eat a super high sugary diet or lots of ultra processed foods, which is filled with sugar, you've got so much sugar that Candida is working overtime and is gobbling up. And really what you're doing is you're building that colony. So now you get Candida overgrowth, which can lead to all sorts of different fungal issues. So it's different than just like good or bad bacteria. It's a fungus overgrowth.
Oh, so Candida isn't a bacteria; it's a fungal. Mm-hmm. It's a fungus. Mm-hmm. And so when you take an antibiotic, it doesn't kill the Candida. No, it's not killing you. It's going after bacteria. Yeah. And so then that also kind of creates a
lot of people can experience like even worse symptoms if they have Candida overgrowth after being on antibiotic. But like I said, nothing works on its own in the body. Things work as a whole.
Yeah.
So there's the whole thing. So one thing can lead to trickle down effect. But at the end of the day, if you go on an antibiotic, just make sure that once your 10 days are done, that you go on a really good gut product and a really like gut repair product or a really good probiotic to start building up that microbiome.
You said that it could be out
4 months. I tell people 3 to 4 months.
After you take one round of
antibiotics, yeah. You want 3 to 4 months. You'll see a big improvement. And you see it, and we've even tested in 90 days, we saw like a change, like 80% change in the microbiome.
What if you're one of those naughty people that don't finish out your 10-day antibiotic? I mean,
it doesn't matter how many days you do it. If you're on antibiotics, you need to be like minimum 3 months on a really good probiotic.
Wow, I've never ever done a probiotic, and I'm just eating. Well,
there's they've never told that. They're never told. Nobody's ever told to do that. But I mean, just look at the basic science. You can take an antibiotic; it's just blowing up everything. And so now it's going to regrow simply based on your food. So if you have a really good diet, let me say you have a really good organic, homegrown diet, then you don't need to go and you're eating foods that have probiotics in them, like yogurt and kimchi and sauerkraut, those kind of things. I mean, there's a whole list of things. Then you
kombucha
you don't need to go.
None of that stuff tastes good to me, unfortunately.
See, I love kimchi.
Okay, you mentioned that, and
kimchi, cucumbers are the best. So good.
This is,
but it's got a little spice to it, so you kind of gotta like spice.
Any of these prebiotic things are, hang on, the word is like pickled or what? Fermented. Fermented
foods.
It's all fermented stuff.
Yep.
And that is because of the yeast situation, or because where does yeast play in?
Well, and that's really, I mean, kind of what, like Candida, you have yeast, fungal, like Candida is kind of falls into that category. But you're talking about how to make it?
Well, no. I'm just saying is that why you're eating fermented foods to help control?
You're eating fermented foods because fermented foods have probiotics in it. They have good microbiome in it. Yeah, that's why you're eating it. And so that's why. So
if you get just like a bunch of sauerkraut on your hot dog from the ballpark, it's good.
Well, my point is just like, do you have to be on a pre and probiotic? No, it all depends on your diet. Okay. If you have a typical American diet, which is
you probably do
ultra processed foods, then you probably definitely need to. But if you eat a pretty healthy diet with a lot of fruits and vegetables, and you're eating fermented foods, like I said, kombucha is another big one, and you're having fermented foods or drinks, that is your pre-probiotic. Okay? So you don't need to take a supplement per se.
If you're wondering, what are foods that have these, just ask ChatGPT, because it will give you like a whole list, which was interesting because I did have I took it, I had a root canal and took an antibiotic, noticed that it made me feel pretty sick in terms of my digestion, in terms of like how it affected my pooping. And so then I was like trying to Google, trying to figure out what I could do to get a probiotic, realize that none of those things are in my diet.
Then and that's where I come into supplementation. Whenever anybody asks me about supplementation, obviously I own a supplement company, but even as a doctor, what I prefer is that you get all the things you need in food. And then you know what you eat and you know what you don't eat. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not eating certain foods that you need in order to get these vitamins or these minerals or these microbiome, then you need to supplement, right? And so, but if there are people that they eat all these different foods and they don't need to be on supplements, because they're eating farm fresh foods, they're not eating, even organic food from co-op and natural grocers and all that stuff, it still does not have the mineral and vitamin content that, vegetables in your garden have. Have you ever tasted a tomato from your garden versus it's like not even the same food? It tastes so much different. Like my daughter was dating this boy this summer and we were at their house and his mom has a cool garden, like beautiful flower garden and tomatoes. She's picking these little cherry tomatoes to try. And some of them like, oh my gosh, this is like candy. Like these are some of the sweetest. And it's like, I've never bought anything. Little teeny tiny
tomatoes that there's just,
which is the same.
It's such a treat. It's such a treat to have.
It is, and it's different. And you know the difference.
I'm going to work on it next year.
You know the difference because I am not a fan of, I'll eat bananas, but when I lived in Venezuela, there's so much fruit that just grows there naturally that coming back from Venezuela, it was just like bananas in the United States are disgusting. It's like eating chalky thing, whereas you down there where you're picking it right off of the tree, it is super sugary. It is very sugary, very sweet. It tastes very different. You don't have that chalky type taste from a banana here. And so that's what happens. You pick it before it's ripe, and then it's being processed through and sprayed on, and all these different things are being grown in fields that are constantly growing the same stuff that are mineral depleted. So it's nothing compares to eating food that is grown in your garden. Not even close. Nutrition-wise.
Do you have a garden?
We have tomatoes right now, but we eat a lot of meat.
I need to try a few vegetables. That's gonna be my goal next year. Okay.
I'm a big meat and fruit guy. And fruit, even more so than vegetables. And this may be controversial to some, I don't really care about vegetables at all. For me, it's fruit and meat, because this is fruit. Tomatoes are fruit, avocado's fruit, cucumber's fruit. Anything that has seeds on the inside is fruit. Bell peppers, those are fruit. Those are not vegetables.
I've never thought of, I knew tomato, but I never thought about bell peppers. That's interesting.
A fruit has seeds on the inside.
Interesting.
Of it. And so.
Okay.
But, and then I know there'll be people listening going, oh my gosh, he eats nightshade vegetables like tomatoes and bell peppers.
But what about?
I do. But also when your gut is where it needs to be, because some people that would trigger autoimmunity. Nightshade like tomatoes and bell peppers can trigger autoimmunity as well.
I don't know what nightshade is.
Nightshade is like, that's just, there's these different fruits, vegetables, different fruits that are classified, but the big ones are tomatoes and bell peppers. And so if you have a healthy
carnivorous,
gut,
you hear so much about carnivorous vegetables and how essential broccoli and cauliflower and.
Now, broccoli is one of the exceptions for me. Broccoli is.
It's a fruit?
No, it's a vegetable. But
I heard that if
broccoli is extremely nutritious.
I've heard people say that even if I think you told me this, even if you put cheese sauce on your broccoli, it's better than not eating broccoli because it's so healthy.
So
you're the one that said that, right?
I will repeat this. And there's so much stuff out there. And here's what I say.
And we're just going to let Dr. Watts be as controversial as he wants. We're just going to
just
take
go
it,
for it.
And we're going to
This is what I say. This is what I say when it comes to diet.
We're learning.
There's so many things on social media and so many influencers out there talking about, oh, well, don't eat this. And then there's, just carnivore or paleo, or don't eat vegetables because they release this certain chemical and they're not good for you and this isn't good for you. And then you just sit there and like, well, then what the hell can I eat? Everything's bad for me, right?
Yeah.
I still go back to what I teach to everybody. Eat real food. If it grows on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, you're good to go. If you love vegetables, eat vegetables.
I'm going to get him a t-shirt. I think we need, right? It's on the ground, in the ground. I think we need a t-shirt.
So if you're eating whole foods, that's where you start. Eat whole foods. And if you can eat whole foods if you're growing your own vegetable fruit garden, great, and you're buying chicken and beef from local farms that are grass-fed, that is the best way you can eat, right?
Local Costco's, you mean?
Right. But if you're not doing that, there's a good, better, best, right?
Yeah.
Good is eat whole foods. I don't care where you buy it. They're whole foods. It's not processed foods. Does it have the same nutritional density as if you grew all your own food and all your own meat? No, it doesn't. Is it 100 times better than eating ultra-processed foods? Absolutely.
Right.
So I start with that. That's good. Better is you are buying yourself at Whole Foods and you're getting meats that are antibiotic-free and grass-fed. Best is you're growing your own garden and you're buying beef from a local farmer. Like, that's best, okay? But any one of those, you're still doing better than 90% of the population. Yeah. So that's where I'm gonna leave it. Now, me personally, what do I like? Like I said, I'm a big meat, fruit. I've had this controversy. The only diet I advise against is vegan diet. And I know I piss people off when I say this, but science is science. Try to eat vegan without supplements and you will die. Because you cannot find all the essential vitamins, minerals, fats, amino acids that you ingest in a vegan diet. Now, if you go completely carnivore, which once again, I'm not totally a carnivore guy either, but simply because I enjoy food, so I don't limit myself in either way. If you only go carnivore, you will thrive because you get every essential vitamin, mineral, nutrient, amino acid, all those things that you need from just meat. And so I'm not saying go one or the other. I'm just saying the only diet,
fish.
And fish. The only thing I advise against is going vegan because it's not healthy. It's not. And I know plenty of vegans. You can go online, find plenty of people that were vegans for 10 years and they were so big voice for vegan and then it almost killed them and then they're no longer vegan. And so other than that, eat real food. But when it comes to like broccoli, this was the statement. So I had a biochemistry professor, Dr. Bracho. He like a lot of students were like totally intimidated by him because his classes were hard. They were the most failed classes. This was in chiropractic school. in Biochem 1, Biochem 2, and then nutrition is what he taught. And 1 and 2 were the most failed classes in the school.
Oh, shoot.
Very hard. But we also had the highest biochemistry scores on the boards of any chiropractic school in the country. And so a lot of people were kind of intimidated by him. I was a little bit older because this was a second career for me.
Right.
And I lived in Venezuela, so I kind of like had my own little relationship with him because I'm like, Venezuela, I love Venezuela, the Venezuelan people. And I wasn't intimidated. So like I got along great with him. And I remember him saying this once. He told me this. He said, broccoli is it's such a huge superfood. It's so good that if you have to drown it in cheese to get your kids to eat it, the health benefits from the broccoli far outweigh the negative of the cheese. Which I'm like, okay. And I'm not saying do that, but I'm like, at the end of the day, if that's what it takes to get your kid to eat something really good like that, then hey, I mean, you weigh the good and the bad. It's like, I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not a purist when it comes to diets. Like I always preach, eat real food and 80-20. If you can do that 80% of the time,
and that's
you're
80%.
Good. 20%, you're going out to a restaurant or you're eating,
it was funny because
you're eating cookies.
When I was at Movar last week and I said something 80-20 and they were like, well, what we're doing is working on flipping which one's 80?
Well, and that's the typical American diet is 80-20
bad
crap to good.
Yeah. So something to think about.
So just keep it real simple. Cause like for me, I try to teach it this way because if you make it really simple, then people can do it. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have people be much healthier than we are or have been. And so here's Dr. Watts' rule to nutrition. If it grows on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, you're good to go. If it comes out of a package, bottle, or can, try to avoid it. 80-20. Eat that way 80% of the time, and 20% of the time you enjoy life a little bit. Okay, the body's made to filter stuff out, but even still, you're still doing better than 90% of the population here. And then aside from that, make your plate look like this. And this is where I would get people, because then it's like, oh, diet doc's going to give me a diet, which means I don't believe in diets, first of all. Not one bit. I believe in changing your diet and doing this. Your plate should look like you're eating a $60 plate at a nice restaurant. Half the plate is a really good vegetable medley, a salad, asparagus, and then a good quarter of that plate is a really high quality meat, right? Antibiotic free, if you're going to a nice restaurant, hormone free. And then your other little quarter of the plate is a little scoop of rice pilaf. It's or a sweet potato or whatever, a healthy starch or carb, right? If you eat like that, you're good to go. And that's when I get everybody on board, because then they're like, oh,
I like that.
I can eat like that. That's really good. I'm like, well, that's healthy. You're eating real food, and then you're portioning the plate in a way that's going to be healthy, and it's going to keep you in the right direction for sure. And now, was that perfect? I'll sit there and say, no, it's not perfect. I'm sure you could really dial in, and I'm sure there's all these influencers that would probably throw a fit about what I'm saying, but I don't really care. Because for me, it's like, how many people are going to be dairy-free and gluten-free and this free and this free and that free and all this and have this super restrictive diet? It's almost impossible to do. And then how many people actually do it long-term? Well, I can tell you, I know very few people that actually do it long-term, because it's not a dietary change, it's a diet. And when you can do a diet lifestyle change, then it becomes something that you can permanently implement. And if I have you eating that way, that means you're eating whole foods, and you're not eating crap that's coming out of packages that are extremely harmful and have all the horrible stuff, all the extra sugars, artificial sugars, unsaturated fats. And also know that you want fat in your diet. So over the last 30 years, I've watched eggs are bad, eggs are good, eggs are bad, only whites, now eggs are good. Eggs are good if you are buying farm fresh eggs. And there's a huge difference between buying eggs at the store and buying farm fresh eggs. Just open it up, look at the yolk. One is like a dark orange, the other one is not that same color.
Really yellow, right?
That's the most nutritious part. Matter of fact, you get so much nutrition from that yolk. It's such a healthy food. But if you're buying store-bought, where are those eggs coming from? They're coming from chickens oftentimes that are in these crammed things, super stressed, eating a grain diet. So the eggs actually have a much higher, instead of having all these great omega-3s, you're getting some of the more like the omega-6s, you're getting more the inflammatory omegas that you don't want, right? And so you can buy store-bought eggs. Okay, not the best in depending on what it is. And it's so much marketing with that.
Right.
You know, cage-free, this free, that, you know, and what does that really mean? Go look it up, because it doesn't mean what you think it does. It's shady marketing, shifty marketing. Just find somebody local and buy those eggs. There's nothing that compares those eggs. And you can taste the difference too. Just have a hard boil of a farm fresh egg. And when you bite into it, that yolk is soft and moist, where when you boil, and it's really deep orange, when you get one from a grocery store and you do it, it almost has a gray hue around it, and you bite into it and it's really chalky. That is not a good egg.
We need to start having like chicken co-ops in our neighborhoods.
We had tons of chickens. We're going to get more. Just the raccoons went on a murder spree last fall and killed them all.
Sad.
It was sad, very sad. And so, but we're going to get more, because it is so awesome. And honestly, if you have the land, they're cool they're fun little pets. Like they just walk around and hang out.
Well, and didn't you mention that you also have goats? You have cute little.
We have these little Nigerian dwarf goats that are like the size of a dog. And they think they're dogs. They see you, they come running to the fence with their little nubby tail shaking. It's the cutest thing.
And so do you milk them?
We don't. We have them for this we have this section of our land where it's kind of like this hill that goes this way. And so that's all pastured off. And so they just maintain that, so I don't have to mow it. And my wife gets she's got her own little hobby farm.
That's fine.
She just wants the animals. She loves the animals.
Is that who, like, goat yoga, it's those baby goats.
Yeah, I know, right?
That play with you. Okay. All right. What was my next question? So I have to try. Okay. The other thing that we were talking about, like how you feel if you have gut dysfunction. One of the things is the inflammatory response. The other thing is maybe not pooping regularly, right, or having
brain fog is another one. Anxiety. Stress can increase, like
depression.
A lot of depression. Absolutely. Because think about it. If you have dysfunctional gut, you're going to have decreased serotonin. Right. Your neurotransmitters are not going to be created the way they need to be, which then you're going to have a deficiency.
I got another question, stupid question maybe. But what I have thought that I knew is that serotonin, dopamine, what's the other one?
GABA.
They are brain chemicals, right? So when they're created in your gut, then they're stored in the brain?
Well, then when they're created in the gut, and then they cross what's called the blood-brain barrier. Just like we have a barrier of the gut to the blood, we have a gut-blood barrier, which is what leaky gut is. And so then it crosses that, and then it basically, it goes up to the brain and your brain.
Because it is still released by your brain when you're cuddling or when you're having
it's going to regulate.
Whatever those different,
But it starts in the gut. It's created in the gut. So if you don't have good gut health, you're not going to create neurotransmitters.
This is something that we used to talk about in the mental health space was, when you've got teenagers, they're not sleeping great because they're staying up too late on their phones. And the blue light thing and their circadians and that kind of thing. They're eating crap. They're eating straight out of the vending machine or drive-thrus or whatever. And maybe they're getting activity and exercise, and maybe they're kind of a gamer or something, like not getting a lot of sun and outdoor time. So what's interesting is that we used to say, if you have a kid that is struggling with depression, anxiety, isolating, start with trying to get them some better food, get them some sleep, and get them outside. I love what you said. I think we talked about this, like, go outside. Everybody should get outside more. Maybe it was Dr. Wolfson that said that.
We're not meant to be inside. Human beings are not meant to be inside all day.
And so I think specifically with teenagers, and the moodiness and the period stuff and the hormone changes with puberty, it's all just a rat's nest. But when I see kids at school and they're walking around with, the bag of Cheetos and drinking Power Red Bulls and kind of subsisting on just the empty calories and energy drinks, which we have a tendency to model. I will take responsibility because I have been a bad example as well. Before you're saying let's get you on an antidepressant, really see if you can get your kids on board with helping them either ask kids love to ask chat stuff.
GPT?
They believe chat GPT before they're going to believe you. And so if you can get them to do some of their own research, it's a way to maybe get them on board just a little bit.
I'm going to do it right now. Let's do an experiment.
Okay.
Just give what your kid, I would say, name 5 things to help with depression. Some of us that are our age, we aren't really trained to go onto AI. We're Googling stuff, or sometimes I'll go on Pinterest. So I just asked a question in ChatGPT. Name 5 things to help with depression. Number 1, fix the gut-brain connection.
Oh.
Number 2, rebuild mitochondrial and cellular energy. Number 3, balance neurotransmitters naturally, which is in the gut. Detoxify the brain and body. And one of the biggest ones, honestly, is exercise. And they've shown that. Actually, exercise beats antidepressants every time. And really, when it comes down to antidepressants, there's still docs that are prescribing it, which is mind-blowing to me, because last year studies came out showing that SSRIs emphatically do not work.
Right. So an SSRI is a serotonin. They would say this is producing serotonin because you don't have enough serotonin. Right.
So it's a serotonin. What does it stand for? Serotonin
stimulation or something.
Reuptake inhibitor.
So, I mean, if you've had teenagers and you've had them on antidepressants and an anxiety medication is a sister form. Like anxiety and depression are the same thing. Really, it's like they're cousins.
Yeah.
And so David used to call them unlike the fight kissing cousins. But when you put the kid on this, and I did it because you want relief for your kid, ask them to do some research. And this was one of the techniques that David said was the most helpful to do. Rather than trying to tell your teenager what to do, try to get them to do some research or try to get them to be curious about it. Because sometimes parents that harp on their kids have a credibility problem. Okay, so.
But it starts with your diet. And I'd have like a patient come in, and here's the thing. This is one great thing. Once again, I'm not in politics. I'm just going to let you know. So I always get people ask, oh, what are your politics? I'll tell you what my politics are. I think it's WWE. I don't.
WWE.
World, wrestling.
Oh.
How it's fake. I think it's a joke. I think it's fake. I think these guys say bad things about each other, and then as soon as the cameras are off, they all go to lunch and play golf together. So this is not political. So whenever you hear me say something, I'm not getting political. But I can point out when somebody's doing something good and when they're not doing something good. And here just recently when RFK Jr. banned, and we banned dyes, they're extremely harmful. First of all, they're already banned in Europe, and they're banned in Russia, and they're banned in a lot of countries. But I have a patient that would come in, and she'd straight up, my 10-year-old daughter who's sitting there reading that book, and she is a bookworm, and she will sit there and read that book for hours. If I give her mac and cheese, which has yellow number 5, she will go from being that kid to ADD bouncing off the walls. So have your opinion. I'll tell you my opinion because my opinion is through actual clinical, like seen it real live. Diet and exercise is a huge factor in ADHD, ADD, anxiety, depression. You change, that's the very first thing I would do if any of my children were dealing with any of those things, is I would change their diet and I would get them outside and get them active. That's one of the reasons, like my kids are all very active in sports, always have been. And we had, and it's funny because I always talk about it. Do you want to be an elite athlete? What's your goal? Just to play sports in high school? Or do you want to play in college? Do you want to play after that? Like, what is your goal? Because if you want to be an athlete, you got to treat your body like an athlete, right? Sure. And so we always had the talk going into high school. I had it with every one of my kids, and I'd tell every one of them the same thing. And I've never had an issue with any of my kids in high school. I have 4. My last one's a senior. And I'd look right at them and say, you want to be an athlete or you want to be a partier? You can be whichever. I was a teenager once. And I know that I can't prevent you from doing whatever. But what I can do is this: you're going to have to choose, because if you want to be a partier, that's not conducive with being an athlete and taking care of your body. And so you're going to have to choose. If I find out you're a partier, you're not going to be in trouble. You just won't play sports anymore. I won't spend money for you to play sports. And that also comes with diet. You got to clean up your diet. You got to eat healthier things. And then what happens naturally? Well, your kids playing sports, they're outside, they're exercising, they're in the sun, they're eating healthier foods. The likelihood of that child having depression, anxiety, ADD, ADHD, much, much, much lower, if non-existent.
Plus they feel a purpose. Yeah. They feel they're part of something, right, which is really great for the mental health.
And so it doesn't just have to be sports. Really get them outside, get them exercising. You want to be out in the sun and you want to be exercising and you want to change their diet. And you do that, you will see dramatic changes in attention deficit disorder. You'll see dramatic changes in anxiety and depression because it all starts in the gut. It really does.
So the last thing that I do want to bring up is we talked about anything that shows up on your skin could be a gut issue. So
gut or liver.
Okay.
And so I'm going to kind of go back and forth between those. And this is a hard story for me because these are the moments you feel like a failure as a doctor, as a parent. So my youngest, I got into this later in life. I was 32 when I got into natural medicine. It was a second career. I haven't been against it. I've always gone to chiropractic since I was little. Like I said, my mom was one of those weirdos that did supplements and chiropractic back in the late 70s and 80s. And so I was like, I didn't have an aversion to it. I understood that, supplements are good and try to eat healthy. But my daughter, and this is what happened with her, babies are born with leaky gut on purpose. They're designed that way because there's the best vaccine, the best immunity a baby can get is through breast milk. So you actually have antibodies in your breast milk that go in that the babies get, right? But if you didn't have leaky gut, those antibodies wouldn't get into the blood, right? So you have leaky gut. So you're building the baby's immune system through breastfeeding. Well, if you aren't breastfeeding, and with my third child, my wife wasn't producing enough. And so this is before we knew better. And so they had her on formula, and we even put in a little cereal in the formula, make it thicker because she was a consumer. Well, go look at the back of formula. You'll see nuts, you'll see lactose, you'll see all these things that kids are allergic to in there. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're drinking while having leaky gut as a baby. So they're developing sensitivities and eventually allergies to those foods. Well, with her, she was the only kid that had bad eczema, really bad eczema. I mean, to the point where she'd scratch so bad here that on her on the inside of her elbow here, it looked like she had vitiligo. Mm. I mean, it was that discolored. And I was always, skin is gut. And so we're constantly trying to fix her gut. And it wasn't until, I hate to even say this, it wasn't even until she was 15. And we realized, you know what? It's not the gut, it's the liver. And got her on some liver support products. And within a month, she was completely Within a month, it completely cleared up her sophomore year in high school, and it's never returned once we fixed her liver. So yes, you can have skin issues because of your gut, but it also can be because of liver as well. So one or the other.
As we wrap up here, if you are suspecting that you or someone you love has leaky gut, first step is to?
I would start detoxing first of all, because
we didn't actually get into.
We didn't get into the detox part, but there are different things: environmental toxins, pesticides, heavy metals, parasites, different things that can cause gut dysfunction. So it's not just leaky gut; it's just gut dysfunction in general. So do you need to test for that? You can, you can run tests for that for sure, and check for that. But you go through detox. And then there's products you can take that can help rebuild the gut lining as well as rebuild the microbiome. And like I said, that usually I put most people on that for 4 months. And after 4 months, usually things are like right back where they need to be. And so, and while all the while being, having a healthy diet, exercise too, because mobility is, motion, physical, that helps with everything, the whole body. You're dealing with your lymph system, like all these different things when you're exercising. It's not just heart rate and, there's a lot of things that are affected by exercise. And
so are there certain detox programs that you recommend?
It's more of a hodgepodge, if that makes sense. Oh. So I was like, hey, here's a binder, which a binder is something that will bind to an environmental toxin or a mold or a heavy metal and pull it out through the feces. There are other products that are killers that will go and kill different fungus or mold or parasites. So there's a combination of things, and it's just kind of I don't have one place I go to. There's a number of different companies that use this one here, and they kind of bring them together.
Is this something that we talk about more in the Q&A? Or?
We can, yeah, for sure. Let's talk about it in the Q&A. And then we were talking about, eventually having the ability to kind of put these things together so people can go, okay, here's the list of the companies, here's the detox program that I would do, and you get this from this company, and kind of map it out for them. And so I know that's something we kind of talked about, but I think it's something we probably need to do because it's like I said, I like to do the best of each thing. So I don't feel like any one company has the best of all the things. So I go through different companies to get the best of what I'm trying to accomplish.
In general, it's simple, right?
Nutrition. I think a lot of this is simple. I think it's overcomplicated because there's so many influencers talking about stuff. And also all these influencers are selling things. So if you make it complicated, then you're also creating customer base or you're making people feel like they have to do it. For me, it's like super simple. Good, better, best. Eat whole foods. And we already discussed that. 80-20, you know what the plate looks like. If you do that, you're doing really good. Okay. And then, if there's certain foods that you don't eat, like you don't like fish, you probably should get on a really good omega DHA product.
Sure.
So then you supplement. You don't necessarily have to supplement for everything. You should, if you're eating a good, healthy diet, you just figure out what your gaps are and then you supplement those gaps. And it's really that simple. And then for me, I'm a big fan of, do a detox once a year. Just detox once a year, just like you should get a comprehensive blood panel once a year. So that way you kind of know where your body's at. And if you do that, you're going to stay. That's true preventative medicine, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I asked a lot of really probably silly questions. So
you're asking questions that probably most people are going to ask.
So I appreciate you being a gut health on a kindergarten level. But I think also the takeaway is, number one, it's really worth it to fix your gut health for longevity, and to feel better and to give your body what it needs. And secondly, you're going to have to probably do a little bit of research to see what you can have access to, and then take those steps. And when you do it, then you have that experience, you feel better, and then you are a resource to those around you, which is really what we want to be.
The goal is to empower people, educate people, and make it not seem difficult so that people can take action and become healthy. And then when you have the knowledge, then you're able to teach that, generationally. And because if not, then you can teach the wrong habits generationally. And that's why you can go to a Walmart and see a 10-year-old that's morbidly obese, and the mom and the dad are also morbidly obese. It's not genetic, it's diet. Mm-hmm. And we tend to be creatures of habit. You probably tend to make some of the things that your mother made, and so on and so forth. And so at a certain point, we change our habits. You're also changing the lives of your children because they're going to get used to eating certain things
on, and
carry that thing on. So you're changing things generationally.
And I think this happens in a shift. Like, nothing will stick if it's like this drastic thing we're going to try for a minute. It's like, let's take some little steps forward and incorporate them. And that's what has had to happen for me.
Well, I take this back from the Marine Corps. Whenever there's any kind of planning, there's one model where we'd always talk about when creating a plan, and it was a KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Because if you can keep it simple, then it's easier to be compliant. It's easy to follow. If you make something super complex, maybe you can do it, but probably not long-term. And then that's probably anybody else is probably also not going to be able to do it long-term.
Right.
Keep it super simple. And like I said, eat whole foods 80% of the time, and you're doing pretty well. Now, is that perfect? No, it's not perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. I also enjoy life. I enjoy food. I love food. But also you can be healthy and still enjoy food and still eat well.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully we've answered some questions, and hopefully we have created some curiosity. That is always the goal. Would love for you to share this episode with someone that you might know. Would love for you to follow along with us on Instagram. We do have a Q&A coming up on October 9th, and this is in 2025. So whenever you're listening to this, we would love to have you join us, submit a question, and we are going to get Dr. Watts to just spill all the info. So thank you for being here. And until next time, we'll see you later.